Amit Malviya is waiting for us from BJP headquarters. Should I use the word, Mr. Malviya, poor show?
Well, you know, in any election, there is one winner and there's one loser. If you're not on the winning side, you obviously have to go back to the drawing board and evaluate what you could have done better. But at the moment, I think we can take heart in the fact that despite being in power in Madhya Pradesh for 15 years, we have done exceedingly well. The Congress, which was hoping to dislodge us, is in fact almost neck to neck, or perhaps even trailing. In Rajasthan, where one had widely believed that Rajasthan Congress will sweep the election, that does not seem to be the case. They're not even at halfway mark. So that leaves a lot to introspect, whether this vote is a fatigue vote or this vote is indeed against the BJP, because it does not seem to indicate that it's a vote for the Congress. That's point number one. Point number two, I've been hearing on your channel a debate on the rural distress. I want to point out a few facts that will be in order, because we tend to miss the details for the overall narrative. Ever since Mr. Modi took over office, his government has ensured that the Swaminathan Committee report, which was gathering dust under the UPA, was picked up and implemented in totality. Today, the MSP is 150% of cost of production. MSP over 2014 is as high as 50% across products. The offtake has increased to about 400%. The offtake on non-MSP products is about 230%. The offtake on market intervention program is as high as about 150%. Farm insurance has gone up by 430%. Irrigation, micro irrigation has gone up by about 300%. The agriculture budget has gone up by 1 lakh crore. The allocation for agricultural lending in 2018-19 is 11 lakh crore. These are real numbers. These are monies that have been put in the hands of the farmers at different points. I can't imagine that the farm sector, which employs a lot of people, is not benefiting from all the innovation and all the direct benefit transfer and all the higher allocation that has happened. Importantly, we have seen that farmers have been used as a political tool by opposition because it's the most convenient thing to do. And nobody can agree that the farmers' lot is not any better than what it was perhaps in the last 70 years. If at all, Mr. Modi's government has done enough and more for the farmers, and that's not to say that it is all. There is a lot that needs to be done.
Mr. Malviya, the only story I see here is, yes, Madhya Pradesh, it's neck to neck. Chhattisgarh, the Congress has swept. Yes, Rajasthan Congress has done well. But the only story for BJP I see is that you have fought back in Rajasthan. That was a lost state. And that's the story I see, because ultimately BJP to come back in 80 when it was being dismissed as a party which would be reduced below 50 is a story to be understood, that parties can actually fight back. Yes.
Yesterday on another channel, you said that BJP will win 3 out of 3. That doesn't matter. These things change and nobody has the crystal ball in front of them. But I want to ask you, what is the party's view on the performance in Chhattisgarh? Because almost everyone felt that Raman Singh would come back and he had a really good record. What is the party's analysis on that?
Look, I think Chhattisgarh, honestly, and the scale of collapse as it is emerging is something that we will have to evaluate. It is also true that Chhattisgarh has always been a very close state in terms of the difference in margin of votes that the BJP and the Congress would poll. But yes, I think you have a very valid question, and we have to go back and evaluate that despite running a very successful and a popular government, despite running a very welfare-driven program, particularly because the state of Chhattisgarh is a state that needs a lot of state support and needs a lot of public spending. It needs to be seen why the BJP has not done as well as it should have done.
Daniel, my colleague Amit Daniel has a question for you.
I have a question for you. In these elections, we saw that one election mascot and ambassador that you had was the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. And he made some very, very interesting statements in Madhya Pradesh, in Chhattisgarh, highly controversial, made headlines, so on and so forth. Even then, we are not able to see that he has been able to make that kind of impact which his statements initially showed. What is the assessment of the party on the electioneering that Yogi Adityanath did in this, particularly in Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh?
Look, I think it's just a bit unfair to pick up on Yogi Adityanath as the campaigner, because there were several other chief ministers who campaigned in these state polls, including the chief minister of Madhya Pradesh and of Maharashtra, who was an active campaigner, and there are several other people and leaders from other states who campaigned there.
He becomes interesting because of the message that he delivered, nothing else. We never heard what Devendra Fadnavis said on a national platform.
You know, that's because there is a disproportionate interest in what Yogi Adityanath ji says, because he's the chief minister of the largest state of this country, and he speaks what is perhaps the political response to the kind of polarizing politics that we've seen from the Congress. I should remind your viewers that his comments, and the ones that you're specifically referring to, were not made in isolation. They were in response to Kamal Nath's pandering to the Muslims in closed room, where he urged them to vote for them to the extent of 90%. That is also a reality. And you can't expect that in a political campaign, the BJP would be like a sheep waiting to get slaughtered at the altar of Congress's communal politics. And therefore, there has to be a response. Yogi Adityanath is seen as a man who can deliver that response, and he did that with aplomb.
One last question amongst your core voters. Do you think the Hanuman statement backfired?
Well, I don't think that backfired. I think the narrative was more in media that he equated him to a certain denomination, which he didn't. We have heard his speeches very carefully. He did not make the reference that was widely interpreted in the media. But I think those are some of the risks that one carries when you're in an election campaign, and that's an event that's behind us. But I don't think our core vote bank has in any way fallen prey to what the media narrative on that statement was, because the truth was eventually out on social media. His video was there for most people to see, and people do realize that he didn't say what was made out to be.
Okay, thank you, Amit, for joining us.